We are back with a Chit Chat with Chan interview with one of the powerhouse women that we bring onto the show. And I really loved this show because this woman in particular, first of all, she's a Michigander. Shout out to the Michiganders. You know that that's where I was born and raised. And I don't live there anymore, by the way. But anyway, nonetheless, she also had her baby right next to her. And I've actually watched her from this standpoint forward, move forward in her business. And like I've witnessed her have to pivot and do things differently in business now that she's a mom of a newborn. And as I was interviewing her, there was moments in the show where her like daughter needed her. And I thought to myself, I'm not taking this out of the show because as someone, you may or may not know this about me, but I'm like quite literally yearning so much to be a mother. And I want to celebrate like the normalcy of doing both business and having a child and being a mom and being present as a mom, and making it all work even when it's really messy. So there's moments in the show where her daughter needs her, and we're going to keep that in because I feel like I want to celebrate that. So without further ado, I'm introducing Kasey. Kasey is a business mentor who helps her clients finally put the quote unquote good girl to bed and build businesses that actually fit around life, not the other way around. She's a former multi six-figure nutritionist who ran a cash injection business for years. She's a new mom who decided to break all the rules and create something simple, sustainable, and ridiculously profitable. Without further ado, let's get into the show. Kasey, welcome to the Chit Chat all the way from Kalamazoo, Michigan, a fellow Michigander, which is my home state. So I'm really excited to have you on the show. As you guys know, as you're listening to the Chit Chat interviews, I bring women on that I have never met before. So I've never had a conversation with Kasey. And this is that kind of makes this really fun. So I'm really excited to dive into all the things and get to know you, understand your craft and what you've learned in your business venture. So without further ado, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about you.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. I know a lot of your audience is probably not familiar with me. So my name is Kasey. I am currently a business mentor, and I actually pivoted into this space a couple of years ago after building a multi six-figure nutrition business. So I started in the online space back in 2020. It was like, pandemic business, and grew a really successful business alongside my full-time job as a physician assistant. And then my cat is right next to me, so I also have to toss him off. Um, and then after that became really successful, I felt kind of called into the business and marketing space to help other people do essentially what I did. And so I pivoted back in 2023. And now the clients that I work with are all over the board, which I love. They're fitness coaches, they're nutritionists, they're business coaches, they're sales coaches, like all of those sorts of things. And really what we do is we extract their unique genius and pull that to the forefront of their marketing.
Mm,
And I love that part because I find that my clients get really buried in the online space and kind of feel like they're just a noise, like they're just adding to the noise of the online space. They don't really know what sets them apart or know what makes them unique. And so when we can extract that, like that's when their brand really starts to take off and they feel clearer on who they are and where they're going and what they're bringing to life. So that's a little bit about my story. I have a 4-month-old baby sitting next to me currently. And so managing motherhood and business has been something that's been so forefront of my mind for the last few months. So
yeah.
it's been a wild couple years.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Sounds like you are a
Yeah.
true beast. So I have mad respect for you. And what a cool journey. I think I love the story of like I started this alongside of my 9 to 5 and then I was successful and then I'm able to do this full time. Like I think that's so cool. And now you get to experience this in motherhood, which is like it's like a dream come true that you're able to find success and do something like that. Like that's an amazing thing. So I'm curious from your standpoint, you talk a lot about like this. I think this is, I might butcher this, so you can correct me, but you talk about like being the good girl. Can you tell us more like about what that is and like, how you work with people to kind of overcome that and what that means to you? And I guess like apart from all of that, where was that born into your brand? Like at what point were you like, F this, I want to talk about like, stepping outside of the rules and doing things differently. Like tell us that story.
Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of like birthed from a couple of different places. And to give you a little bit of background, like I have been a chronic people pleaser my entire life. So this is not, something where it's like, oh, I've transcended this thing completely. But, chronic people pleaser, and I wanted everybody else to be happy. And so when I got into business, I thought like, okay, if I just follow the steps and follow the strategy, I'm going to be like massively successful because that's how this works, right? And then you get into it and you're like, okay, it's not that cut and dry. And I would, have clients that would, break contract and they would try to walk all over me. I was bending over backwards answering messages at like, 10 o'clock at night and on Sundays because I was so afraid of not giving enough value and so afraid that I
Mhm.
wasn't enough as a person, that they were going to either leave or not resign or talk crap about me behind my back, or like all of these different fears started coming up. And so it was kind of a little bit born out of that place and having to work myself through those scenarios of being like, no, I need to have a boundary around this and I need to hold myself to a higher standard around this thing. Um, Pricing is a big one that I struggled with a lot too. It's not, people are like, well, just raise your prices. And it's not that simple, right? Because there's this internal battle
Yep.
that you're coming up against of like, if I charge this, am I worth that? And I
Mhm.
think for, especially as women, I think a lot of us are, really struggle with, wanting to be humble and wanting to be a servant and wanting to be essentially a martyr for our businesses. And we can't. That's just not the way that they run. And I think that you can be like a really good human being with really incredible intentions and also have really strong boundaries at the same time.
Yep.
Um, and it's funny because I remember back in my nutrition business, there was like a clear pivotal moment. It was between the year 2021 and 2022. And I had made six figures at that point by 2021. And I I gotta make sure I got the years right. Like it feels like forever ago.
Yeah.
Um, I got let go from my full-time job in January of 2022, and that was a near multi six-figure year. And that pivot and that shift was really me deciding to just be like, you know what, I'm just done listening to all the rules and everybody telling me like you have to speak this way and you can't say this word and you can't speak to the problems, you should only speak to the desires, you should, never talk about the messy middle and only share from the scar and only do this. And I was so, every time I sat down to create content or sell or whatever, it was like this burden on my shoulders of making sure that I was checking all the right boxes.
Wow.
And the minute that I let go of all of that, and the minute that I was just like, F the noise, like I don't care about anything else, that's the minute that my business really started to take off. And I blew up on TikTok and I had 150 client applications come in 48 hours.
Shut up.
And yeah, it was insane. I think the video that went viral had like 5.5 million views. It was wild. But it really came from this place of like, I have an opinion and I'm a thought leader in this industry and I'm just going to let myself be who I
Hell
am.
yeah.
And I don't care what your rules are and I don't care what the stipulations are. And so many of these things in the online space are arbitrary anyway, right? And you can probably
Mhm.
attest to that too. I'm sure you work with your clients on that all the time. Um, and so that was really like that kind of catalyst moment for me. And I my clients have come up against this like many, many, many times where they're like, okay, I keep calling in the wrong caliber of client. And I go back and look at their content and I'm like, you're playing it safe,
Mhm.
or they're wanting to raise their prices, but they're like, oh, maybe if I just, maybe just like the next like one or two,
Yep.
and then the next one or two, and then they don't raise their prices. And I'm like,
Yep.
we need to have a conversation around what's coming up here. So it's a lot of those types of situations where you kind of work through them one by one by one. And over
Mhm.
time, it like builds the confidence and builds the conviction even deeper.
Yeah, I had goosebumps while you were telling that story, and I'm obsessed with it because what I think stands out to me the most, and what most people are going to hear, and they probably do hear when you tell this story, is like, okay, so I just need to be like the F it girl and just go be myself. But what they're not
Yeah.
hearing, what I want all people to hear from Casey's story, is she actually went through a couple years of trying to fit herself into the box, into the framework. She actually followed the rules. And in order to realize that she didn't want to follow the rules or that you didn't want to follow the rules, you had to first follow the rules. And I think that's what most people think is they can skip that step. And it's like I had to go through that too in my own business where it's like, okay, I don't like the way that this is going. I don't like the way that I feel boxed in. And I'm realizing that I wanna break free and I wanna fly. And I think a lot of people think they can skip that step and you just can't. So I have mad respect that you were following the process. Like you said, like this should be a perfect process. I should be able to be successful if I follow the steps. And then all of a sudden you're like, WTF, like this doesn't feel fun. Like this doesn't feel liberating and authentic. So with your business, I know you go by business mentor. Are you teaching the strategy of being the non nice girl in content inside of your offers? Like, is that part of what you do?
It's kind of interesting because I feel like it mostly comes up on a client by client sort of basis because it's so wide and because there's so many different scenarios in which that can happen. Um, I think really what it is more so is understanding what sets you apart and what makes you unique in your industry. And where that like good girl conditioning really comes in for my clients is like that level of ownership that they're not taking over what makes
Mhm,
them unique.
mhm.
And so I'll sit down with clients and they're walking me through their story and I'm like, why are you not talking about this? Like
Yeah.
I've never seen this in your content before. Like, what do you mean? And I've called some of my clients out on it before, and sometimes they're pretty triggered, but that allows them to do the deeper work and go, okay, you know what? I'm actually going to step up my leadership here. This is an invitation for me.
Mhm.
Um, but it's like a canon event. You have to like go through like following the rules in order to get to the place where you're like, I just want to burn everything to the ground.
Yes.
And that's what so many people are doing because it's what we've been taught.
Yeah.
And I feel like the deeper that it's almost like a bell curve, I guess, if I had to put a picture in anybody's mind. I almost feel like it's a bell curve because like you get into the online space and then like the more that you're in mentorship and the more that you're learning and learning and learning and learning, you like hit the peak of the curve where all of a sudden you've completely lost yourself and you're a conglomeration of like your last five different mentors and you're using their phrases and you're using their language and your content starts to sound like theirs and your own voice is diluted. I think my internet is reconnecting, so I don't know if you can still hear me
Oh,
or
no,
not,
you're
but
good. I got you.
okay. Like your own voice starts to get diluted. And then when you finally break out on the other side of that, it's like the bell curve starts to come down. And all of a sudden you're like, wait, I know who I am. I
Yeah.
know what my power is.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really what it is more than anything. As far as like the strategy aspect of it goes, I really, it's more leadership than anything.
Yeah.
It really is. It's more
Yeah.
leadership and capacity than anything else.
Oh, for sure. And I also think too, it's like I am more of a content coach than a business coach. And when I'm talking, I love this theory of like the good girl, bad girl, nice girl. I mean, I don't think the opposite of nice girl is mean girl. I don't like mean girls, but
Same.
and I think that's also an interesting thing too, is like when you tell someone, okay, you're coming off as nice girl, and then they go total opposite direction. They turn into a bitch, and you're like, wait a second, what are we doing here? I think it's just like an interesting conversation. But anyway, I love the process behind teaching content from this place of like I'm going to give you this framework. You're going to follow this formula. You're going to learn how to create content in this way, and then the goal is for you to never use this framework again. Eventually,
Yes.
is she okay?
Yeah, she's just hanging out grunting.
All right, cool. Yeah, she's on the show with us. She wants to be a part of the podcast.
That's why I have the AirPods in. I was hoping it would drown things
Oh
out a little
no,
bit,
yeah,
but
we
we'll see.
like it. I want this is supposed to be this way. So I think it's
Yeah,
perfect that she's in the room with you. I honestly I'm like I want to be a mom very soon. So I
I
love that
saw your
you're
content on that.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I love that you have her in the room with you, and I think that's great. So if you need to hold her,
yeah,
you need to take a break, you just let me know. But
yep,
anyway, back to like the content thing. I just find that fascinating where it's like no one really teaches the process from this is supposed to help you break free and find your own way of
yeah.
doing it. So it sounds like you did that to a T and I'm obsessed. Do you
Mhm.
still use TikTok in your strategy?
Ugh, I don't anymore, and I really fell off of it after giving birth. It was just I could only pick a couple of platforms, and so now I'm mostly on Instagram and Threads because I
Mm,
can type on
yeah.
Threads. It's so difficult to get back on video, partially because it's hard to get myself ready in the morning. I'm
Yeah.
gonna grab her really quick just because she's
Of
grunting. So,
course. Yeah, no
um,
problem.
her. Hi. She's happy.
Aw.
Oh,
I think I
um,
might leave this in the show. I feel like I like it.
you can do whatever you want. This is real life, you know? It's
Exactly,
like
exactly.
this is what happens. Um, but yeah, I really fell off of TikTok and I would love to be able to get back to it. And I think as she gets a little bit older and naps are more consolidated and everything, I probably will. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Do you
I wanted
remember?
to go back to what you said really quick
Yeah,
about the opposite of being like a nice girl is not a mean
yeah.
girl. There was a post I put out probably about a month ago that talked about how quiet power is still power.
Mm,
And I have a lot of clients that come in and they're like, I just, I don't want to be a bitch online. And I'm like,
yeah,
you don't have to be, quiet power is still a form of power and it's all
yeah,
about conviction. So I just wanted to
yeah.
throw that in there really quick.
No, I love that. I think it's so important because why as women do we either go from being so kind, people pleasers, to over
Hmm.
here like being mean as hell? It's like, "Oh, hi
Yeah.
pretty girl." She's so cute. Oh my gosh. She's adorable. So yeah, so I feel like there's no in between and it's like I don't know who teaches that. They don't teach us that in school, but we have like women are so polarizing. Like we're either one end of the spectrum or the other. And there is this happy medium where you're talking about like having the boundaries and being convicted and showcasing like belief from this source of power. It's like there's just a different
Yeah.
way of doing it without walking on eggshells, I feel like. But anyway, I
Yes.
wanted to ask when you were like in this mode of like, okay, I'm just gonna be me. I'm gonna create this TikTok video. I'm gonna show up on TikTok. And the one that you said went viral. Do you remember what that video was? Like where were you? What did you decide to say? Like how did that come about?
Okay, so it's funny because it was literally like, so we have a hiking trail not too far from us, and it was dead of winter, and we've got a golden doodle who needs exercise. And so
Yes.
I took him out on the hiking trail. We're like, 6 inches of snow. I have no makeup on, and I've got like a winter hat on and a coat zipped all the way up, and that's when I filmed it. And so it was the most like nonchalant, I didn't even think about it kind of thing ever. But the conviction really came in because I have a Western medicine background, so I practiced medicine for 6 years and felt like I was pill pushing the entire time. Got so sick of how Western medicine, does things. And I just pulled up my phone and I was like, look, Western medicine is not designed to help you heal. And I literally went on a rant for like 3 minutes and it blew up.
Holy crap.
My brother-in-law texted and he was like, why is your video coming up on my For You page?
Oh my gosh.
Um, but it was just nothing was planned, nothing was thought out. I had no script. I was in the
Mhm,
middle of the woods,
mhm.
and that was it, but it was the most like authentic thing that I could have done.
Yep, 100%.
And that's the key.
I have to shed light to this because this is like perfection in a post. First of all, the visual that I'm imagining where you're like totally being yourself, you're outside. It's not polished, it's not professional. It's just you being you. Like that's the visual portion. And then you have the messaging side of it where you're the ability to have a very strong stance and create an enemy without that enemy villainizing an actual human. Like the enemy that you created was Western medicine. You weren't tearing someone else down to elevate what you were talking about, but you
Yep.
had a very spicy opinion that was a problem. And that's like, this is like philosophy and psychology when it comes to marketing and sales. Is like you started to build virality around this common problem that people wanted to be a part of your community and build a cult around, basically.
Yep.
The fact that, like, yeah, that's a problem and I don't want anything to do with that. So I'm going to join forces with you. And that is like,
Exactly.
that is content in like the perfection, the most beautiful way ever. So I think that's so cool. I'm not surprised at all that people wanted to work with you after that. That's like the coolest thing ever. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit. Walk us through like your when it comes to you mentioned like breaking rules in the industry to have success. Like tell us a little bit about what that looks like in terms of your business and your business strategy and how you I mean whatever that means to you, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. So I think there's a fine line for everything, right? And I think everything requires nuance and everything requires discernment. The way that I look at rule breaking is not like okay, we're just never gonna have a strategy. I think like strategy is the foundation of your business. Like you need to have an offer suite that ascends. You need to understand how to speak to people. You need to understand good messaging, good content, cohesive brand, all those things. But where the rule breaking really came in is I found myself listening to people who were talking about like what you should be doing at that level in business, not what got them to that level in
Mm-hmm.
business. So the people saying like, you know, like I like you are the niche. I never had a niche or like I don't have a niche. It's just my personality and that's why people hire me. They hire me to be in my energy. It's like, okay, well did that build your business? No, it didn't.
Yeah.
And thinking about things like don't speak to pain points. Okay, like I stopped speaking to pain points for a hot second and my sales completely plummeted. You know,
Yeah.
the narrative is like, oh, high level buyers don't have problems. They just want a mentor to get next to that's going to help them go to the next place. And it's like, we all have problems. It's just
Mm-hmm.
how you choose to view it. If you view it as a problem and you're not looking for a solution versus you're looking for a solution,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think a lot of it is so like made up,
Yeah.
you know? But that was a really big one was don't speak to pain points. And I like to think about it in terms of corporate too, brick and mortar businesses, because online business, I feel like everybody has made it to be like its own category, but it still follows general business practices,
Right.
and it still follows general marketing. So like if you're looking at infomercials are like my favorite stupid example, but like if you're watching an infomercial, they talk about the problems that you're experiencing that are related to their product, and it gets you bought into the thing. And so it's like you have to get yourself outside of the online industry a little bit and look at how other businesses run and how they
Mhm.
function and what their setup is like. And that is going to be so much more helpful than just listening to like, oh, this mentor said speak to pain points and this one didn't and this one did and I don't know what to listen to and I don't know what's real anymore. And like you're just going to get so lost in the sauce that
Yeah.
way.
Yes. I love that. That's so true. I love it so much. Well, okay. So when you are working with someone and like who's your typical ideal client before I ask this question? Like where is she
hmm
at in her business journey?
Yeah, so a lot of my clients come in and they've already seen pretty good success. They're making 5, 10, $15,000 months. And they're at a point where they're either capped, like their income is capped, or they can't hold space for any more people inside of their world.
Mm,
Um, or they're at a place where things just feel like they're hustling all the time and like their offer
mhm.
suite is kind of disjointed. Wow, that was a really big spit up.
Oh no.
Oh, yummy. Thanks for that. I don't even have a
Aw.
rag. We're going to use my shirt
You
because
can
that's
go
what
get
we
a rag.
do.
You take your time, whatever you need to go get. I'm not in a rush, so you do what you got to do.
That's okay. I gotta wash everything anyway, so that was a really big spit. Good
You
job.
probably feel much better after
Um,
that. I mean, goodness.
I'm sure you do. There was a burp attached to that one. We were gonna wear this to dinner tonight, but I don't think so anymore. Um, okay, remind me what the question was, because now I forgot.
Okay, yeah, totally, no problem. So we're talking about like your ideal client. She's usually like she's
Oh yeah.
coming in and she's at a place where she's reached her income cap, or she's like, I
hmm
don't have any more capacity and time or bandwidth to give if more people came in. So
Yeah.
okay,
Yep.
so my question from there is like, how do
Yeah.
you work with someone in terms of opening up capacity? I think those things go hand in hand actually, because I
hmm
feel like
I
obviously
think
once
so
she
too.
does open up her capacity, she's gonna burst through her income ceiling. But like, I guess if
hmm
that's the bottleneck, if she doesn't have any more time and space, how do you work with her through that?
hmm So I think first you have to look at your pricing and you have to look at your offer structure. I have a lot of clients that are like, I had one client once that was working with 60 one-on-one clients,
No,
like six
absolutely not.
zero. I
Mm-mm.
know. And I'm like, what are you charging? And it was like hardly anything. It was like peanuts. And so we're looking at pricing structure, but we're also looking at what offers do you have? What are you bringing to the table? And are they actually scalable? I think a lot of people have like, what they would call a scalable offer, but they're bending over backwards, like giving so much of their time. They're in Telegram 24/7 because they don't have any boundaries around their spaces. So if you set up good boundaries around your spaces and you price it accordingly, I mean, then you've got a structure that can actually hold more people. So I
Mhm.
think that's the big thing. And it does take it takes putting your foot down, and creating healthy boundaries with your clients.
Yep.
So we're gonna play pass the football to the husband.
Fun.
Bye,
That's so
baby.
nice.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay, so cool. I love that. So she's looking at her offer suite. She's looking at how to turn things into scalability, and she's looking at how to, I mean, 60 one-on-one clients is insane. I can't even, that's like my worst nightmare, to be honest.
Yeah.
I can't even
Yeah, it was
imagine.
crazy. Yeah.
So did she
Yeah.
get that figured out?
Yeah, so we added a scalable offer. Um, she had a couple like ebooks and courses and things like that, so some lower ticket things. So we added in, we like filled that gap in our offer suite to have something that was scalable, but still like had some touch points that wasn't
Mhm.
all of her time and energy, and then raised her prices for her one-on-one so that it
Yeah.
was just a more like exclusive sort of space. So yeah, and she was already making like I think like 12 to $15,000 months, but
Wow.
she was so burned out doing it.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sure. I can't even imagine. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am curious, like if you wanted anyone listening to know anything about you and how you kind of separate yourself from the rest of the business mentors in the world, because there's a lot of us, what would you tell them just to kind of wrap things up? Like what makes you different and unique in what you do?
I love that question. Okay, so I think it's a couple of different things. One is I love my clients to the point where I know their families and their offers and how many people they signed in their last launch. Like, I think that there's this, it's weird. There's this like thing in the online space where it's like if you want to scale to higher cash months, then all of a sudden you're removing yourself from your clients, you know? And so you're on a Zoom call with 100 people. Nobody knows your name. Nobody knows what your offers are. Nobody knows what's going on in your business. And I'm like, I just want to bring the humanity back into
Mhm.
business. Like the point of mentorship is to be in proximity and to have someone walking alongside you. And I think like, having a background in Western medicine, it's really interesting because it gave me the ability to really listen to people and to read
Mhm.
between the lines. You got someone who's coming in and telling you about all these symptoms, and somebody could brush it off. I can't even tell you how many misdiagnoses I've caught, but like somebody will brush it off as one thing. But if you can read between the lines and you're like, hold on a second, this doesn't line up. Like, tell me about that again. We need
Yeah.
to investigate that further. It's like I can pull that into business and read between the lines with my clients of what they're not telling me,
Yep.
or like the expressions and the body language of like, hang on, there's something internal going on here. This is not a strategy problem kind of
Mhm.
thing. But I think it makes a huge difference when you actually get to know your clients. I
Yeah.
have clients that come to me that are in the middle of a lawsuit, that are like their family members are battling like a life-changing illness, and they're having to like leave the state every other weekend because I don't know how much time they're going to have left with that family member. It's like
Mm.
that's some real life heavy hitting stuff.
Yeah.
And to be in a program with someone who doesn't really understand the depth of your life
Mhm.
as it relates to your business is not serving you.
Right.
And so I really think that's kind of my like, not to toot my own horn, but like toot toot, you know?
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah. Toot away.
Yeah.
I love that. That's amazing, and I think that's a really, um, beautiful answer. I really do. Like you it sounds like you really care about your people. So, tell us before our final question, tell us where like, how is your world set up? How is your offer suite set up? How do you work with people? How can we find you? Tell us all of those things, and then I'll have one final question for you.
Okay, I love it. I feel like the final question is going to be like, I don't know, something either completely off the wall or it's
It's
going to be
not
really fun.
not that crazy.
Yeah, so I'm most active on Instagram. You can find me at I am Kasey Goins. I'm also active on Threads too, which has been a lot of fun. Again, like having a baby, we can be contact napping and I can just be typing on Threads, which is really great. Same handle on Threads as well. As far as offers go, I actually, so going into labor and delivery back in August, I had made the decision to close down my like scalable signature offer. And I was like, you know what? I'm at the space where I want a mastermind. I want deeper conversations. I want to facilitate deeper conversations. I want like a networking space. Like that's really like where my heart is. So the undeniable mastermind is going to kick off in actually 2 weeks. Um,
Amazing.
yeah, I'm so excited for it. I'm
Yeah,
so
congrats.
excited for it.
That's
It's a
huge.
6 month mastermind. Yeah, it's amazing. And then I'll probably rebuild out a scalable program later on this year as Violet gets a little bit older.
I love that. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, everyone go
Also,
follow. Yes, keep going.
Come into my free Telegram community. It's the bomb.
Love that. I love that. I will,
Yeah,
if you send me the link, I can link that in the show notes
sure.
for people. Okay, so the final question is because I'm a content coach, I'm always curious, and I think we kind of covered this a little bit, but I want to shift the perspective just slightly. What is the best content advice that you've ever received and then implemented and you felt like it worked?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, the best content advice I'd ever received and implemented and it worked. Mm, I would say, okay, I would say, and this is part of, I guess, what I talk about too, is like your content tying you back to your brand pillars and your overarching like umbrella as a brand. I think with content, and especially with us as creatives, it's easy to kind of ping pong all over the place. And so then there's no consistent through lines in your content. And so
Mhm.
by weaving in like, the things that you stand for, your values, your brand pillars, and always pointing back to these things that you say, your key phrases,
Yep.
things that people know you for over and over again, like now you have a really cohesive feel to your feed instead
Hmm.
of just like being all scattered.
I love
Yeah.
that. That's amazing advice. I love that so much. And I feel like that's clear, concise, and simple. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Kasey, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been you and your daughter having you both has been amazing. And I'm excited. I'm gonna go follow you and I'm gonna keep up with all the things. So I'm excited that we got to meet and I'm really appreciative for you just taking time out of motherhood and out on a Friday to come hang out with me for a little bit. And I'm sure the people loved this show. So thank
Yeah.
you so much for being here, and I will plan on chatting with you soon.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, bye.
Bye.